But here's the really interesting part about The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is actually filled with a lot of political symbols from America during his time. Hi, this is Anita from the Dusty Roads podcast. This is all about living your life as a global citizen. Today, I want to go to America, and in particular to the heartland of America. I want to answer the question about what is the relationship between the Wizard of Oz and Christmas? And if you're interested, on my blog, A Bus on a Dusty Road, I have written a blog about this and answered this question. You know, around Christmas time, and Christmas is coming just around the corner and soon, I was in Costco the other day and I saw there's Christmas decorations all up to be bought. So I guess Christmas is coming very soon. Whenever Christmas is coming, it seems like the Wizard of Oz starts being played on TV somewhere. So people begin to think, well, what does the Wizard of Oz have to do with Christmas? The answer is nothing. Really, The Wizard of Oz is not a Christmas movie. But one of the reasons why The Wizard of Oz might be so popular during the Christmas season is because, it's a heartwarming story about a girl who is finding home, where heart is where the home is. So, maybe it's because during the holiday season, we all think about home. We think about being home. We think about how home is where the heart is. It talks about her trying to get back home. Dorothy and her friends are trying to get back home. And it's an upbeat and it's a fun movie and it's a heartwarming story and it's got some great classical music. So that could all be reasons why, the Wizard of Oz is a movie that you tend to find on TV or people want to watch it during the Christmas season. But actually, The Wizard of Oz from a book by L. Frank Baum, and he wrote the book as a fantasy children's book. In 1939, after his death, it was made into a movie. So most people know about The Wizard of Oz from the movie adaptation. But his book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, was a book that was filled with a lot of Christian and other symbols. So, that could be some reason why people also associated with the Christian holiday of Christmas. But here's the really interesting part about The Wizard of Oz, and something that I didn't know. I've watched The Wizard of Oz my whole life and had absolutely no idea about this. The Wizard of Oz is actually filled with a lot of political symbols from America during his time. Dorothy Gale, who's the lead character of The Wizard of Oz, symbolizes the average American and serves as an allegory of America. Dorothy is actually the best of us as Americans, as we're independent, yet we look at how we can solve the world's problems. Even though Dorothy was young, she was an optimistic leader. So she's kind of symbolizing this young country of America that's optimistic and is looking to solve the world's problems. That basically we as Americans many times believe in a better future. And that's kind of what Dorothy Gale was symbolizing, was this part of America. The Tin Man, who is also one of the characters in The Wizard of Oz, was symbolizing the distress of the factory workers in the United States during this time. He is one of Dorothy's companions. He's on a quest to slay the Wicked Witch of the West. In The Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man represents the political tones of the humanization of American factory workers because of the Industrial Revolution. So the Tin Man kind of symbolizes this part of America that's maybe a little bit more of a, grayer part of America and how the factory workers were then being treated. The Scarecrow stands for the American Midwestern farmer and all the different troubles that were facing the 19th century America and all the different troubles that these American farmers were facing, especially in Kansas, which would have been a very difficult place for many of them to farm. It was, they sort of had this, sense of inferiority and self-doubt. And so the Scarecrow kind of represents this part of the Midwestern farmer during this time and some of the maybe the difficult life that they would have had in the late 19th century and early 20th century. The Cowardly Lion And this is an interesting part of it because the Cowardly Lion actually represents the Democratic presidential candidate and populist politician William Jennings Bryan. Bryan never won the White House, but in the U.S. press, he was depicted as a lion. So Baum sort of took, this symbol of this political leader he obviously didn't like and put him in a character in his book to represent cowardly political power. The Wicked Witch, so the Wicked Witch kind of serves as a metaphor for the powerful interests of American politics. The Wicked Witch of the West and East both serve as a metaphor for the power and influences of money and interest in the American political life. The Wicked Witch of the West, it represents the interests of the West Coast, including the greedy railway owners and wealthy oilmen. You have to remember that during this time, there would have been the railway going through. There's a lot of greed going through with the railway, and so the Wicked Witch of the West sort of symbolizes that part of America, the sort of greed to go out west, where the Wicked Witch of the East represents the industrial interests of the East Coast of the United States. So I really love the fact that there's, these two witches and each one symbolizes, the East and the West during this period of time. The Emerald City represents America's capital of Washington, D.C. The Emerald City is situated at the end of the Yellow Brick Road. And the Emerald City also symbolizes a direction that Baum saw America going towards money and greed while forgetting the American political values. So he was sort of making this statement about America and America's political values and the direction that he saw America going. The wonderful wizard symbolizes the fraudulent illusions of the American presidency. Basically, the wizard shows the American president is tied together with money and other special interests. So that is kind of an interesting analogy that he used. The winged monkeys that he had represent the enslavement of Native Americans and Asian laborers. It's about all types of that he considered these marginalized types of group and enslaved people in American society, especially during this time in, the turn of the, 19th to 20th century. You would have had a lot of the American Indians being kicked off of their lands. And, a lot of the Asians were working on the railroads as almost slave labor. So that's what the winged monkey represents in this story. The cyclone or the tornado symbolizes the political upheaval caused by many political movements in the United States. It shows how distracting these types of political activities are. So you have these, huge cyclones that come, and it's basically this whole political evil, and it's, dragging people from their home to another place. He also wrote the book about women's independence, because women at this time in the United States would not have had the right to vote. So he made his lead character as Dorothy Gale, which was a woman, to show that, this was a strong, independent young woman, and that The Wizard of Oz is really a book or story that symbolizes the independence of women. I love The Wizard of Oz, and it's kind of a great story, American story. And it's really, interesting to understand in the context of the history during this time, what the different symbols meant to him and what the different symbols mean within this story. If you'd like to read more and see some of the pictures from the Wizard of Oz, we have the pictures in some of our blog of some of the different characters and what they look like in the actual movie. You can go to our blog. We'll put a link below for you to be able to see it so you can read it, because it really is a classic American story that every American and anyone that wants to understand America is great for you to be able to know and to understand. This is Anita from the Dusty Roads podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate Rico, who helps to put this all together. We want to thank you, our listeners, for taking the time to be with us on this journey of living your life as a global citizen. Thank you so much.